The Colorado Rockies held a beauty that was as brutal as it was breathtaking. In the spring of 1888, the stagecoach winding its way toward the mining town of Cedarville carried a passenger whose spirit felt as carved and weathered as the granite peaks surrounding her. Clara Vance, 39 years old, sat stiffly, a leather-bound ledger clutched in her lap like a shield. Within its pages were not love letters, but 12 years of meticulously recorded financial transactions. Payments sent west to a man named Arthur Pendleton to build their future, a future that, according to his last letter, was finally ready for her. "My dearest Clara," he had written, "the Silver Queen mine is yielding beyond our wildest dreams. The assay reports are astonishing. Our patience has been rewarded. The house in Cedarville is finished. Come at once. Our future begins now." The coach lurched, and Clara's grip tightened. Her savings, her inheritance, every penny she had earned from a decade of managing her late father's small shipping office in Philadelphia, was invested in that mine. Arthur had been the dreamer, the charmer she'd met back east. She had been the practical one, the engine funding, his ambition. It was a partnership, she had told herself, a business arrangement with the bonus of companionship. Cedarville was a raw, roaring scar on the landscape. The air thrummed with the cacophony of stamp mills and the boisterous shouts of men. It was a far cry from the quiet, orderly streets of Philadelphia. Clara disemboweled, her dark, practical traveling suit drawing glances amidst the sea of flannel and denim. She went straight to the address Arthur had provided, a handsome, 2-story clapboard house on Prospect Street, with a view of the bustling mine works in the distance. Their house. Her heart hammered with a mixture of triumph and trepidation. She knocked. The door was opened by a young woman, no older than 25, holding a baby on her hip. The woman had tired eyes but a pleasant smile. "Can I help you?" "I am here to see Arthur Pendleton," Clara stated, her voice firm. The woman's smile faded into confusion. "I'm sorry, ma'am. There's no one here by that name. I'm Liza Croft. My husband, Ben, is a shift foreman at the Silver Queen." A cold dread began to seep into Clara's bones. She showed Liza the letter, pointing to the address. "This is Prospect Street, is it not?" "Yes, ma'am, but this is number 12. Your letter says number 21. That's up the hill. The big one with the green shutters. Belongs to the mine owner." Clara's breath caught. The mine owner. Of course, Arthur had done it. He had truly struck it rich. She offered a stiff apology to the confused young mother and turned, her steps quickening as she climbed the hill. Number 21 was a mansion, a testament to newfound wealth. Before she could knock, the door opened and a man stepped out, pulling on a pair of fine leather gloves. It was Arthur, older, thicker around the middle, dressed in a suit that cost more than Clara's entire journey west. His eyes, the same piercing blue that had once captivated her, met hers. For a fraction of a second, there was nothing. No recognition, only annoyance at a stranger on his porch. Then the shock hit. "Clara?" "Arthur." Her voice was ice. "Your house is very grand. The mine must be doing exceptionally well." "Clara, I can explain," he began, his face paling. A woman's voice floated from inside the house. "Arthur, darling, are you coming? The children are waiting in the carriage." A woman, elegant and young, appeared in the doorway, followed by 2 well-dressed children, a boy and a girl. She looked at Clara with polite curiosity. "Is everything all right, dear?" Arthur's face was a mask of panic. "This is an old business associate from back east, my love, a Miss Vance." He turned back to Clara, his eyes pleading. "Perhaps we can speak at my office tomorrow. There are complexities." The humiliation was a physical blow. The ledger in her bag felt like a stone. She saw it all now. The complexities were his wife, his children, his life, a life built with her money, while she was relegated to the role of a forgotten investor. "There is nothing to discuss," Clara said, her voice dangerously quiet. She looked past him, directly at his wife. "My congratulations on your beautiful home. I understand the investment was substantial." She turned and walked away. leaving Arthur stammering on his porch. She didn't look back. The fury that burned in her chest was a cleaner, sharper thing than the despair she'd felt at number 12. This was not a misunderstanding. This was theft. Down in the bustling main street, reality crashed down. She was stranded. Her money was gone, absorbed into Arthur Pendleton mansion and life. The little she had left for the return journey was pitifully inadequate. She found a bench outside the land office and opened her ledger under the weak sun. The numbers, once a testament to her prudence, now mocked her. She was a bankrupt businesswoman, not a jilted lover. "Trouble, miss." The voice was rough but not unkind. An older man with a sheriff's star stood before her. "I am simply assessing my situation, Sheriff," she replied, closing the ledger. "That situation involve Arthur Pendleton?" he asked, his gaze knowing. "Saw you head up the hill. He's got a habit of leaving complicated situations in his wake." Clara looked up, a new, grim determination settling over her. "What would it take," she asked, "to challenge a man like him?" The sheriff chuckled without humor. "Lawyers, money, and evidence, in that order. You got any of those?" "I have evidence," Clara said, patting her ledger. The others appear to be the problem. "Then I'd suggest finding a solution before winter. This ain't a town for the unprepared." He tipped his hat and moved on. Clara sat for a long time, watching the flow of money and men. Arthur had stolen her future. The law was a luxury she couldn't afford, but she saw something else in this raw, chaotic town: opportunity. It was a place where everything had a price and everyone had a need. Her eyes fell on a sign: Cedarville Claim and Title Office. Next to it was a vacant, grimy storefront. An idea, audacious and terrifying, began to form. Arthur Pendleton had taken her money to build an empire on silver. She would build her own, not from the ground, but from the cracks in his. She wouldn't sue him for what he owed her. She would compete with him. She stood, straightening her shoulders. The broken, humiliated woman was gone. In her place was Clara Vance, former business manager, current victim, and future rival. She walked toward the vacant storefront with a new purpose. She didn't need a man to build her a future. She needed a plan. Clara Vance did not break. She calculated. The vacant storefront was small, dusty, and perfect. Its windows were grimed over, obscuring a view of the very mine that had swallowed her fortune. Using the last of her travel funds, she secured a 1-month lease. The owner, a grizzled man named Henderson, who ran the livery, had laughed at her crisp Philadelphia accent, but took her money all the same. "You won't last the month, miss," he'd said, not unkindly. "This town eats dreamers for breakfast." "I am not a dreamer," Clara had replied, her tone leaving no room for argument. "I am a bookkeeper." Her first purchase was not furniture, but a bucket, lye soap, and a stack of old newspapers. She spent 2 days on her hands and knees, scrubbing a decade of grime from the floorboards and washing the windows until they shone. The physical labor was a purge, scouring away the last vestiges of self-pity. With clean glass, she could now see the Silver Queen mine clearly, a constant, gritty reminder of her goal. Her second purchase was paint. In stark, black letters on the freshly cleaned window, she painted Vance Enterprises, Financial Services and Asset Management Ledgers and Hardened kept. Payroll processed. Investments secured. The town took notice. A woman in business was a novelty. A woman in this business was a spectacle. The first week, she had no clients, only spectators who would peer through the window at the severe-looking woman sitting behind a single, second-hand desk, her ledger open, waiting. Her break came from an unexpected source: the young mother from the house on Prospect Street, Liza Croft. She entered the office hesitantly, her baby now swaddled in a sling against her chest. "Miss Vance," she began, wringing her hands, I heard what you do. My husband, Ben, he's a good man, but the mine pays in scrip. We can only spend it at the company store, and the prices are, well, we can never get ahead. We have a little saved, but we don't know what to do with it. We're afraid of being cheated." Clara looked at Liza's worn hands and hopeful eyes. This was not Arthur Pendleton. This was the life he was built upon, the labor he exploited. "Sit down, Mrs. Croft," Clara said, her voice softer than she'd used in weeks. "Let's look at your numbers." Clara showed Liza how to convert a portion of Ben's scrip into real currency through a discreet teamster she'd befriended at a less usurious rate than the back-alley loan sharks offered. She helped them set up a savings plan for their child. She didn't charge them a fee that first time. The trust, she knew, was more valuable. Word spread through the miners' wives. The severe woman from back east was sharp, she was honest, and she was on their side. Clara began managing the meager finances of a dozen families, finding ways to stretch their earnings, negotiate debts, and plan for a future beyond the mine. It was this reputation that brought Samuel Thorne to her door. He was a geologist, a man in his late 40s with a quiet intensity and hands stained not with dirt, but with ink and rock dust. He didn't own a mine. He consulted for those who did, his value lying in his ability to read the story of the earth. "Miss Vance," he said, removing his hat, "I'm told you have a mind for figures and a disposition for discretion." "That is my business, Mr. Thorne," Clara replied, gesturing for him to sit. "I have a proposition. A partnership." He slid a folded map across her desk. "I've identified a claim, adjacent to the Silver Queen's northern vein. The geology is promising, but it's played out on the surface. It requires capital for a deep shaft. Capital I lack." "And what is my role in this?" Clara asked, her interest piqued. "You find the investors. You structure the partnership, manage the books, and ensure the money is spent on picks and powder, not whiskey and wallpaper." He met her gaze squarely. "I've seen what you've done for the Crofts and others. You have a talent this town desperately needs. I provide the science. You provide the strategy." It was the first time a man had looked at her and seen a partner, not a pawn or a patron. It was a dangerous, thrilling feeling. "And the primary risk?" she asked, her business mask firmly in place. "That Arthur Pendleton finds out and buries us in legal challenges before we can strike a single rock." A slow, cold smile touched Clara's lips. Let him try. The North Star Consortium was born. Clara used her growing network of trusted clients to secure small investments. She structured it so that every investor, from the teamster who contributed $50 to the washerwoman who invested $10, held a share. She was the managing partner, Thorne the operating partner. They hired miners the Silver Queen had let go, men who were loyal to a fair wage, not a company scrip. When Arthur Pendleton finally deigned to notice, it was too late. The North Star shaft was already 30 feet deep, and Thorne's core samples were showing even better results than he'd predicted. Pendleton's first move was not legal. It was social. He spread rumors that Clara was a swindler, a jilted woman seeking revenge by leading hard-working folks to ruin. The whispers flew, but they found little purchase. The families she'd helped became her staunchest defenders. His second move was economic. He tried to undercut her investors, offering to buy their shares for a pittance. Clara had anticipated this. Her partnership agreement included a right of first refusal for the consortium, blocking his takeover. The conflict came to a head one afternoon in front of her office. Pendleton, flushed with anger, confronted her on the boardwalk. "This foolishness ends now, Clara," he spat, a crowd gathering. "You are playing with fire. You'll bankrupt these people." Clara stood calmly in her doorway, a ledger tucked under her arm. "I am not playing, Arthur. I am conducting business, something you would understand if you had ever built yours with your own money instead of mine." The crowd gasped. The open accusation, the specific nature of it, landed like a hammer. "That is a lie," he blustered. "Is it?" Clara's voice cut through the murmur of the crowd. She didn't need to open her ledger. She knew the numbers by heart. 12 years of transfers, Arthur, from the First Bank of Philadelphia to the Cedarville Mercantile, under your name. A total of 8,427. You built your house, your stable, your life on the capital I provided. The North Star is not my revenge. It is my rightful return on investment. The truth, laid bare in the stark mountain light, was undeniable. Pendleton's reputation, the foundation of his credit and social standing, crumbled in an instant. Men who had respected him now looked at him with contempt. He retreated, a broken bully. In the wake of his downfall, Vance enterprises flourished. The North Star claim proved rich, not with the easy silver of the Queen, but with a steady, valuable vein of lead and zinc. The consortium's members saw their investments multiply. Clara was no longer just the clever bookkeeper. She was a successful business owner, a force. It was in this new stability that her relationship with Samuel Thorne deepened. It was not a whirlwind courtship. It was a slow, steady convergence of two solitary orbits. He admired her mind, her unyielding integrity. She valued his quiet competence, his respect for her capabilities. He was the first person with whom she could discuss profit margins and poetry in the same breath. One evening, as they reviewed the North Star accounts in her office, now properly furnished, he looked up from a core sample. "Clara," he said, his tone unusually tentative, "this partnership, it has been the most rewarding venture of my life. The assays are good, Samuel. The profit will be substantial for everyone." "I'm not talking about the ore," he said softly. "I'm talking about you." He didn't get down on one knee. He didn't make grand promises. He simply reached across the desk and took her hand, his thumb gently stroking the ink stain on her forefinger. "My life is richer for your presence in it. I would like to make our partnership permanent." Clara looked at their joined hands, at the ledger between them, at the man who had never seen her as less than an equal. The ghost of Arthur Pendleton, of stolen dreams and broken trust, finally dissolved into nothing. "A merger, then?" she asked, a genuine, unburdened smile gracing her lips for the first time in years. "A merger," he agreed, his eyes crinkling at the corners, "with completely consolidated assets." They married in a simple ceremony at the new, small church the North Star prophets had helped build. Liza Croft was her witness. There was no talk of starting a family. They were both past the conventional age, and their business, their shared creation, was their child. It was enough. It was more than she had ever dared to hope for. 5 years later, Clara stood on the porch of a comfortable house, their house, built with North Star earnings, overlooking a Cedarville that had grown and calmed. The wild boomtown had matured into a stable community. The Pendleton mansion had been sold to pay debts, its former owner a diminished figure who had left town in disgrace. Samuel came to stand beside her, slipping an arm around her waist. "The quarterly reports are finished. The consortium voted to fund the new schoolhouse. Your idea." Clara leaned into his solid warmth, watching the sunset paint the peaks in hues of rose and gold. She had arrived in Cedarville seeking a life promised by another, a life that had been a lie. She had found something infinitely more valuable, a life built by her own mind and fortified by her own strength. Arthur Pendleton had given her a dream of silver. In fighting for what he'd stolen, she had found her true claim, a legacy of respect, a partnership of equals, and the unshakable knowledge that she was and always had been enough. The ledger was closed. The future was hers to write.